ready for like.
Okay. I can't tell you guys how helpful it is to have the recorded meetings.
No question. I had
We had to go back and look at them to get ready for today. Even so, it's only been 2 weeks. It just felt like it'd been longer.
Me. Oh, yeah, I know. You're the go-getter, sir.
Being here today, the room are just now getting settled, so we'll go ahead and get started. Hey, team. I think we're just waiting for Shay and Dimitri to finish.
Shane's going to the side meeting.
Shay's running a side meeting. We're in green fields.
Talking about trying to schedule fields.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to schedule the fields, which is one of our purposes today. Yeah, exactly. So, good afternoon, good morning. Thank you for being here. Once again, Kim Castro, Parks and Recreation Manager. I've got some staff with us online, Tammy Orlando and Yasmin Garcia. Our intern is online. And then, Michael, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Michael Sue, AYSO Region 64 Regional Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. Oregon.
Raj, Santa Clara Rush.
I walked me some for that.
The secretary is something. Is in Santa Lines.
Okay, thank you. And
Supervisor.
okay, and we've got our illustrious Nicole Sadilak in the back of the room helping us with notes, and Tammy Orlando managing things online for us. So thanks everybody for being here. Sorry, again, we send out the agenda a little bit late, but these are continued items from last meeting. So last meeting, we really kind of started dialing in on the fees, what they would be. And then we had this around what we may do about a resident rate discount. If you had more residents in your league or team, we perhaps would propose a discounted rate. So we wanted to continue that discussion. And then there was also a proposal on the table from AYSO to implement a non-resident nonprofit discussion category. And a proposal was sent out to everybody in the distribution list a little bit late last night. And so that came in. And so I'll share screen in a little bit and talk to that. And then we wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about what a potential field allocation process could look like according to our new priorities. And so that everybody, we could have just sort of a discussion around that. How would that look? What would we do for that? Oh, there we go. Now our camera's working. It helps if when you take the lens cap off.
We're not just talking to an empty room, right?
Yeah, no. Welcome to the party, Michael. And then we just wanted to provide you with a little updates that the Park and Rec Commission reviewed the Wade Brummel policy and guidelines. Thank to Mike Walke, who was in the room, and representatives of the Santa Clara Swim Club were also in the room that night and provided feedback, as well as a few commissioners that have been participating in the conversation. And those
Linda was online.
and yeah, Linda was online too. Yep. And those guidelines were approved with just very slight, sort of not mechanical edits. It was more like, put this in this category and that kind of thing. So that was drafted and is being prepared for council on the 29th of April on consent. And then our plan is to take the fees to council also on the 29th. And then the Park and Rec Commission would review our fees on March 10th. So this discussion today is very critical path to help us move forward on what we present to the Parks and Recreation Commission just in a couple of weeks. So we appreciate your ongoing dialogue with that. So that's what our game plan is for today. Any questions on that? Okay, I am going to stop sharing the agenda. And I am going to share where we were, with our priorities and our fees, last meeting. Hopefully, okay, yes, technology is in my favor today. Awesome. Okay, so there was conversation this was what was proposed last meeting. And then this is, you'll see this little call out here, was part of the discussion. So before we have the discussion about the new category, I wanted to have the discussion about resident youth nonprofits, which is category 2. The proposal was you got it? Okay. Somebody else in the waiting room. The proposal was for this category only, the way I understand it, please correct me if I'm wrong, would having at least 75% or more residents on their roster would pay a reduced permit fee of 50%. So if your permit was $8 times 8 hours of use, then and your roster met these guidelines, then you would pay 50% of those fees. So effectively $4 an hour instead of $8 an hour. Yes, is that what you guys remember? Okay.
Can I make a comment there? I must say this is nice because I think it fits the philosophy I heard from the board, the city council, where they want to make it as free as possible for the kids. So it fits that way where it actually more kids get a lower valuation. My only question is this seasonal permit, does that include the Wade Brummel fees too? Or only the hourly rates for the field?
Only applying to the field fees. Yeah.
Maybe clarify that so they don't get caught up in the Wade Brummel. Just are not Wade Brummel. I mean, that's what you're saying. I don't know if the group wants to change that to include Wade Brummel. I have to ask them.
Usage fees.
Okay. Any
And
other
then-
conversation?
In the youth nonprofits, in parentheses, you might want to put category 2. So it's clear. That's the only group.
Only for category 2.
Yep.
Any other thoughts, considerations around that?
It applies to category 2.
Guys, sorry. Okay. And then there was some discussion about, was the resident rate too high? Was the commercial rate too high? Do we get the ROI on those things? And I think last meeting, we sort of decided that they're pretty aligned with, not only the benchmark in terms of resident rate, but the commercial rate, we really wanted to intentionally leave at a cost level rate.
I kind of disagree with that because I don't think the commercial rate aligns, but we don't have the data to really make an assessment from what the cost is for your Parks and Rec team. And we want to be cost neutral, but neutral in revenue. I just don't want to, I can't tell you it's aligned with the market because the numbers I see are not 280. So that's only my reference. I can't say that those two are meeting the market demand. It may meet the costs perspective for the
Sorry,
city.
yeah, it's more cost recovery.
Yeah.
For us than it is market rate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to step over you, Kim.
When we've talked about these fees, the whole point is cost recovery, right? So I think you've shared this with us before, and maybe that might be helpful for Michael. What you guys are calculating the hourly rate to be for cost recovery.
Yeah, it is a little bit higher than the 280, the cost recovery rate. So coming down in the other example of the 50% rate reduction to the category 2 residents, if we were to implement this strategy, we would really be relying on the other categories to make up that difference.
We're not even fully recouping costs with the commercial and non-residents.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, we're close.
covering that different stuff.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
we're
but-
close.
That might be more of, go ahead, Dino.
Sorry to interrupt, and I apologize for joining the meeting late. And we are predominantly a basketball organization, but we have ventured off into softball, and these rates are at least 5x for the commercial, not the non-resident commercial. They're 5x of what City of San Jose is charging.
Yeah.
So it is quite a difference.
Yep, yep, we're aware of that. So every city has their own strategy on what goes into their fees. And also they have every city has their different inventory of fields and a different purpose. And so our purpose is definitely focused on youth and focused on seniors. And so they have a higher priority, and they also have a lower cost recovery strategy in our city.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds like that's the focus, right? I think we hear about from the data you're saying there, Kim, is that our focus is on resident children, residents here, to give them the priority and the costing, and to some ways keep people who are non-residents out and make that a benefit and get the full cost recovery from them, but give the benefits to the people who are resident status.
Yep, that's the intention.
Yeah, it's almost like I do this at work. I write a philosophy statement at the top. That way people know what we're doing.
Yep, no, that will be, the next iteration of this is to wrap that into the report that will go to the commission and then eventually to the city council. And those, with the historical reference to, the priority has been focused on youth in these areas, and these are the engagement pieces that we have. So, yeah, for sure. Okay.
Sorry, can I ask one other question? I thought I saw an email last night where there was a different category for resident nonprofit, youth nonprofit, but not that below the 75% threshold. That go away?
So that is the next point of discussion. So we're trying to
okay, got
categorize
it.
these
Okay,
into
thank you.
two separate discussions, not one and the same. So one discussion is on whether or not there should be a different rate for the category 2 groups who meet a roster of 75% or more of residents, and would then receive or pay 50% of their permit fees. And then the new proposal is something we began to talk about last week, but the charge was after that meeting to go back and give that some thought, talk to your various boards and stakeholders, and then we would kind of bring that back.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And I mean, we're not voting on this because we don't have voting authority, but I'm fully supportive of the 75% with residency with rate reduction. I think it sends the right message, and it makes it easier for our local people to be involved.
Let me bring up the proposal that you guys got in your inboxes last night.
Sorry, I wanted to send it 2 weeks ago. I just did, life gets in the way.
No, I appreciate that because, it was our intention also to send the agenda out a little bit earlier than we did too. And I was like, wait, did we even get oh wait, this is the wrong one. Did we even get our agenda out? And when I saw it in the morning, and I was like, oh my gosh, here it is. Okay.
I should have texted you.
No, please don't. Okay, resident. So, okay, here we go. We want this one. That's showing right. There it goes.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So let me just tip this up, Michael, and then feel
Sure.
free to jump in here. So what was started as a dialogue, I think at the last meeting, was adding a category for youth nonprofit youth nonprofit, non-residents. And I think the proposal last meeting was to really put it between categories 3 and 4. And it was defined as, nonprofits that fit into kind of the California nonprofit structure, and maybe serving Santa Clara residents, but not meeting that larger threshold that the other rate, the 51% that the other category 2 percentages do. So how do we, would we put a new category on the list? And remember, as we do field allocations, we start with category 1, then we do category 2, then we do category 3, then we do category 4. Now the proposal is to add category 5.
Yeah,
with
Kim, I
different
think you
rates.
nailed it on the head. You did. You nailed it perfectly. When last time we sent the proposal out for review and got feedback, and I appreciate the feedback we got. I think Mike had a couple good points about how residents should be above it. So I readjusted that based upon that level of where it's at. And then I was trying to work with Angelique on terminology so we would be clear of what type of groups fit into that window. I think something Shay had mentioned how we don't want everybody coming in from all over trying to get into the space that we have and squeezing out the residents that are in place. So I try to put another line in there targeting 15%. Now that's my adjustment, my perception, but I'm willing to I'm open to having people discuss that value. You might notice that the bright number is less than the resident. And that's done on purpose because I recognize those greater than 15%, each of those participants has to pay a Wade Brummel fee on top of the resident fee. So I want to make sure that it's actually a double hit to the youth nonprofit greater than less than 51%. That's why I kept that rate a little lower. Hope that makes sense in my proposal.
So,
$25.
So this is a non-resident rate with category 5.
Yes, category 5 is, this is the part of the discussion that's been proposed, is do we add a category 5 and for youth nonprofit non-residents?
So is category 5 added as a point of discussion for AYSO, or did the city add that?
AYSO added this.
I was my proposal, giving it to recognizing that we do have a significant amount of Santa Clara residents, but providing them the usage of the field, just not enough to reach the 51% threshold. It's sort of I have to say, how would you put it, middle class, if you wish to call it. We're not fully resident on the commercial side, but we're not fully on the residential side. So we're in that transitional zone.
Okay, so open it up to the group for discussion.
I think there's anything to discuss. I think we all said last time, no, I'm not interested.
Yeah, I can have agree with less than 50% residents. I'm just gonna 50% as like,
Paying less than
the rate. Less than good, someone just have to come in.
Absolutely not.
All right, sorry to hear it's being said. I can't hear you.
She can't repeat it. You can
You get closer to the pucks are next to the table here. So if you guys can get close to the pucks, then they can hear you online better. Yeah.
We could repeat what they said. So the group, there's members within the meeting that have said that they disagree with allowing non-residents to pay less than residents. I mean, at the very least. Is there any other points you guys wanted to?
I have real concerns because this opens every park in the city of Santa Clara up to the entire county of Santa Clara. These are city parks, they're not county parks.
Well, it doesn't even say county, it's just non-resident.
It does in the
No,
definition.
I took that out. I took that out of the definition. I removed the county reference in the definition, saying that you have to actually be a city resident to apply. Therefore, you cannot be a county person who wants to come into the field. You have to be a city resident who actually does the application. So effectively a sponsor within the city to say that you want to bring you in.
The resident in the city could bring a group of
Yeah,
only San Jose players and
Yes.
get this discount. I don't think that's,
But
Right.
they only get the discount if they have more than 15% residency of the players.
it's not gonna fly.
so the resident has to be the sponsor and then they have to have 15 or more percent.
Correct.
Okay.
That way-
Nuance.
That way you're that transitional. You don't get anybody who's like, oh, I'm not gonna pick on San Jose Rush. I know they're in the room. But if they're all San Jose residents, they won't be able to come in if they even have a single,
What?
they can come in, but they won't have that rate because they have to get 15% residency.
So, you know, for the sake of discussion and the group here, and I could see, Michael, that you're putting at least something across the table. We're not in like a technical negotiation per se, but at least for the sake of discussion, you're looking, is it safe to say, but and correct me if I'm wrong, that you're looking for some sort of discount or priority for youth, non-resident, nonprofit, right? That's the baseline,
Oh, some residency, not full non-residency.
correct? So therefore, if you do have some residents, you would like to, what if any benefit could you gain in terms of, is your interest, or is it twofold? Mostly financial, or is it also priority? Or is it mostly
Great
financial?
question. I understand. So, obviously, when we look at the higher levels, and I think maybe Dino mentioned this too, the rates above the full non-resident wouldn't be unacceptable. Nobody would be able to get into that type of level. That's one.
Okay, so-
And then the other one would be the rate, the priority. I mean, priority after residence, fine. I don't think we've we've had that in the past already.
Okay, so the rate is cost prohibitive. So and you could say, yes, you'd like that, and the group in here could say, we don't agree, we agree. But what if you, rather than the 15% off the resident, you got a percentage of resident discount relative to the non-resident rate? So if you had 20% residents or 30% residents, you would get a 30% discount off of the non-resident rate.
A sliding scale type of thing. I think you'd want to do. I think you want to do it.
Still a high baseline, but at least it's established, at least it's credit for your residents. So, I'm just trying to help creatively through some of this rather than, because we're gonna run out of time.
Yeah, I understand.
With one option discussions.
Yep. I think
And
that's what
we're-
happened last time when we got to the 75% ratio. Same question came up. I think
Yeah.
someone mentioned San Jose or some other group does that where they charge them a sliding scale depending on residency, which is, I think, what you're talking about, right?
And as a reminder, that fee for, what was I doing? Well, I'm just thinking, we have that rule of a resident can't, make a reservation.
Correct, yeah.
But it's not just our fields, it would then go over to picnics and buildings and.
Yeah, so that would feed into it doesn't matter if it's a resident or a non-resident. That's how they would be making the reservation. If they showed that they had 30% residents, then they could get a discount if it's a youth group.
But I'm thinking the baby shower that's happening at Central Park, how are we then monitoring that?
Well, that's a facility, that's not a field.
These categories are different. These categories would only be applied to fields.
Field use.
Yeah.
So just to follow that line, that the 51% would get you a higher rate in priority. Below that is a scaling to the amount of residency to discount your rates.
Yeah, yes and no. The baseline of the other premise is that your organization is based within the city of Santa Clara.
Correct.
So that's the baseline qualification, and then the residency, everything. Therefore, you are afforded the lower rate.
And I have to
Model
appreciate
sliding
something,
scale.
I think Mike said something I appreciate it was the fact is not just me and soccer. There's a lot of other users out there within that realm that could pack other fields and other facilities that we have within Santa Clara.
Could be it would be youth, it would be for youth. It'd be for youth groups, but yeah.
What's
having a base in Santa Clara, PO Box? An address, a physical address, what is it?
But it would be.
It's the nonprofit is addressed or based in Santa Clara, so.
El Camino, which is the police department.
Yeah.
That's our home base.
The residency, this is the residency,
What's the Lions address now?
Benton.
Yeah,
Mm-mm. It's either Benton or or Monroe.
And Michael, the question also is prioritization. Are you, with this category, are you expecting and looking to be categorized in the level 2 with everybody else, so you are able to get
No.
the deals if you want?
no.
No,
It's a
no.
5.
Yeah,
He's a-
it'd
he would be a-
it'd be
he'd be a
similar.
six.
It'd be similar with 6 and 7, right? We would be grouped in that. It's just that we would be ahead of 6 and 7 from a residence perspective, non-residence perspective. I'm sorry.
I appreciate the conversation and the willingness to talk about AYSO's financial situation, but I don't think it solves. The heart of the issue is inventory.
Yeah, field space.
And we all want this. We want more kids playing soccer, but we don't have a lack of organizations providing opportunity. We have a lack of field space providing opportunity. So in the daytime, for things like the fields are empty, like let's do things, but AYSO serves an awesome purpose. They provide rec soccer for young kids. But we also have 2 other organizations in Santa Clara doing the exact same thing.
3.
Three, awesome, 3. So for me, adding more user groups just dilutes the opportunity for Santa Clara kids or to kids in general. Because we're all gonna be, I don't want to say fighting, we're all gonna be pushing for the same exact time slots on the same exact field.
Yeah.
No,
And-
in fact,
Vying for and vying for.
Worse experience, and it's gonna cause people to be turned away. Like ultimately, we have to turn away kids because we don't feel that.
Yeah, so their priority would still be low.
Well, then how is priority done? Because if user group 2 can fill every time slot.
Then there's nothing left.
there's nothing left.
Then
Yeah,
there's
and
nothing.
Because that's not what we've experienced in the past.
Well, we're gonna talk about, so we're gonna talk about lotteries, priorities, how to field allocation. That's like part 2 of today's discussion, right? Wasn't that on the agenda?
Mhm.
So I think I think everybody agrees that they shouldn't have to worry about their allocated field space relative to a non-resident user. I think everybody could agree to that, except for AYSO, clearly.
Another example is like the ZOG thing, like the adult soccer thing, which is great that adults are playing soccer, but that time slot, they start to creep into the youth soccer.
Especially during the summer, during the daylight.
And then what does it do to, I know that's the soccer side of things. I don't know how softball and baseball,
Well, softball right now,
this opens up new categories for this problem to happen in other areas.
This is true.
This opens up lacrosse, this opens up flag football, this opens up more baseball, this opens up any
We're a
sport.
small city with limited resources, surrounded by a metropolis who all wants field access.
Yep.
So the more doors we leave open, the more diluted it's gonna be.
I think Dino has his hand raised.
At the end of the day, our goal is cost recovery, and we're not
Somebody
gonna
has their
recover
hand
this
raised.
cost giving discounts to non-residents. When the flags and whoever are coming from all these other cities, like as it is, city council didn't want us to charge our youth nonprofits at all. And we're over here talking about charging them now because of cost recovery, and then we're gonna go give a discount to non-residents, like it doesn't make sense to us. When the residents are paying, like, people are saying you're getting stuff for free, but we're not, we're paying our taxes, we are paying.
I think.
Yeah, I do have a question if I may.
Already had 6 or 7 groups. I think we're creating an unnecessary complication thing. And that wasn't the intent of what all these conversations have been about or how long we've been talking
Okay.
about.
So I think we can move on.
Okay, we can move on. I'm gonna take Dino's conversation.
Question.
Dino, go ahead and make your comment,
Okay.
and then we'll move on.
Okay, thank you. So I think I'm in kind of in that category 5, where I am a resident of Santa Clara, and we're not quite at that upper threshold, but we do exceed the 15%. So it's great that we have that opportunity to even try to get a field, but I also respect all of the other programs that are in a higher category that they should have priority because of all of the conversations noted. So from my perspective, I think this is fair. We're not going to take anything away from the other categories, but if there is something available, then we should have priority over 6 and 7.
Okay. Is your organization serving youth or serving adults? Do you know?
Youth,
Okay. And what sports?
softball.
Softball. Okay, thank you.
But some of these commercial organizations are Santa Clara based. Why should they have priority over them?
Mhm.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
$2.80 an hour.
Sorry, I didn't hear that last question.
I
or
said,
comment.
if some of these commercial organizations are Santa Clara based, why shouldn't they have priority over you if they are residents and we do need their $2.80 an hour? Why should you get priority over them?
So commercial is commercial. It's about like what they're trying to do with the fields. So they're making money off of the fields. So if they're making money off the fields,
Right.
it's not
But-
what the fields are for.
Right, but we're nonprofit, so we fit the 5 category. We are a youth nonprofit organization.
Youth, nonprofit, non-resident.
No, I am a
That's
resident.
not a given category.
No. So I'm number
that's
5, a
not-
youth nonprofit
Those categories.
Santa Clara resident and organization in Santa Clara, and we are higher than 15% of our membership in Santa Clara.
They're just not 51.
Oh,
We're
you're
just
just
not
not
51.
51. Okay.
And we know, but we can come. It's possible that we can become there, but right now we're not there.
That's what you gotta do. Yeah.
It sort of goes back to, I think, I can't remember, is it Greg, the guy in the jacket on the left? But for me, I think you said the sliding scale of residency would actually answer a lot of those questions, but keep us in that priority where we're not 51%. And that goes, I think, to someone else's comment. Why are we getting it more, giving it to other non-residents? That sliding scale would then associate to the amount of residency and the discounting value you were talking about. Am I saying it correctly, Greg? I think it's Greg, right?
Yeah. Okay. So I think what our charge is, as a staff trying to bring this forward, is to create all the voices in our reports going forward. And then we'll try and massage this a little bit to make a recommendation. And then as that goes through the process, again, everybody's voices can be heard in the public forum with the decision makers that are at hand. That makes sense.
I do appreciate the fact that we had this discussion. A lot of times
Yeah,
this is done in the back
valuable.
room and no one knows. And now that we're
Yeah,
being transparent
100%.
with it. I love that.
100%. Yep, 100%. And I think, everybody is here with the same effort to put forward and, to provide youth with a rich, engaging sports or, experience. So that's great. We've got about 25 minutes left. Angelique, you are on, my friend. Do you want to come?
Any sort of fancy,
Want to come stand over
Sure.
here so you can be, everybody online can see Angelique.
sit down. So kind of just to take a step back and talk about how we currently are allocating our fields. Up Steve wants in. We take all of your guys's requests. We send out an email. We get all of the requests from the various groups. And then Marlon and I do the piecemealing of the different fields and the spaces that are needed. Based on what you guys request, we look at the calendar and the field space and we start plotting things in. We obviously, in the back of our minds, we already sort of use this category. We put our city programs and any of our activities and classes and things in there first. And then we go with what you guys request. we see there's any overlap, Marlon will sort of negotiate with the different groups to see, well, can you guys do this time to this time? There might be overlap here. Can this group come in this time? Can you not do Thursdays and you can go Wednesdays? And we do a lot of negotiating ourselves to get that, to make everything happen. It's obviously a lot of back and forth, a lot of work. I know with the soccer fields, Mike will work with Bert and Dimitri to do some off topic, I guess, field negotiation, and then they'll let us know, okay, this is what we worked out. And then we do the permits that way. So it's not the best system. We would like to have something more succinct and very much more black and white. So over the last year or earlier, actually like a year ago when we first started these discussions, what we decided was we needed to bring back the priorities because that would help us with our prioritization. And then use that as a way of creating a lottery system. And then from that, bringing in the groups by, well, softball and baseball will be easy because you guys pretty much are yourselves. So that'll be a lot easier. But in terms of the soccer groups, bringing you guys together for a lottery night, your lead people sitting down at the table, and then going through that process. So I think in one of our meetings back in, I think it was early January where we talked about, I think this was more in the Wade Brummel stuff, that we put together the priorities or the permitting schedule where we talked about priority 1 and 2 for like January through May, for example, we would start permitting in November. And then 3 and 4 would be a month later, probably sooner, because once we have everything in, we can bring in the next group and sort of look at that. One of the ideas being, so Damon's number 1 at the meeting, I'm number 2. We would propose, and this is again up for discussion, 2-hour time slots. So that way each group, if Damon's number 1, he picks his first night, Tuesday nights, 4 to 6 on X amount of fields. I guess we still need to kind of work out what that would look like, what the needs are, and then go around the table with the groups. That's what we feel could be the most fair. I know in Sunnyvale, when Marlon and I were there, that worked. We didn't have quite as many fields and locations. We both, or Marlon sat in on San Jose's lottery to see how that went, and it seemed to be a doable system. We talked with them with what sort of worked and what didn't work. So it's something we would like to try. We've never obviously done it before, but we also feel that we're at a point where all of you people are all wanting the same space, and to take it off of us saying, you get this, you get that, you need to talk to them to see if this works. You can leave early and not, leave late, and you have to be done Saturdays by this time. So that way this other group can get in. This would, like in my mind, we would have our big calendar up on which I think we've shared in our in-person meetings. We do a spreadsheet and we have it all color coded. And as the fields get picked and filled in, you can see as the week goes on. And this would be for practices, how we allocate the fields for games. We would still need to discuss, because how we do it right now with arbiter and an outside person doing the game schedule is still challenging. But for practice space, that Monday through Friday, 4 to 10, we would sort of piecemeal those out in 2-hour chunks outside of the city programs and the city activities.
So it would be your numbers drawn based on the lottery, then you go around the room 1 through 10 or 12, and you allocate it in 2-hour increments, and then Mike does 2 hours, and Shane does 2 hours, and so on. Then when everybody goes through and does 2, then we start back at the beginning. Almost.
It's more of it's a serpentine. They go down and they come back up. So if you're at the bottom, you get to go twice. The only problem they run into is that people over reserve. Because
that's one thing, is making sure that when you request it and allocate we do have a cancellation fee that we have to work through and figure out what we want to do.
And again, we will likely be going back to having fees. So we're hoping that you won't be overbooking.
And that's the benefit of working with Marlon, because he can say, what do you really need, and figure out what, work it backwards.
Yeah, I mean, it should be, and some people may book things they may not need based on they're anticipating. We do this so far in advance.
Right.
People don't know if they're gonna have the same amount of teams, a drop off in teams or more teams. And so as long as before the reservation time period begins, they release those fields, and then we can put those back into the pot, so to speak. That's fine, but it not the, and then, but once the reservation timeline begins, then the cancellation fees will kick in.
I don't know if you guys have experienced other things, those of you that have worked in with other agencies. We just realized after this last full year, well, the last 4 years, but really this last year with new groups coming in, that we needed to figure out another way and to make it fair and taking it off of Marlon and I choosing who's going onto the fields, because that's really what it was sometimes coming down to.
It's very nice of you to make it fair. I think some other places do it first come, first serve. So there are tough ones that do it differently.
The groups that are here too are growing, and so it's not, you know, we have twofold happening there. All the groups are growing, so they need more space. And, you know, if you add a group, that's an impact too, so.
Does anybody have any input as to that type of a system or an alternative system that they want to discuss? I think that's part of the thing. The other thing with the system is it's not fees and it's not a Brummel, so it's things that it's an administration thing. So if we find that it's not working, we can revisit it as a staff and change it from one season to the next or 1 year to the next, either refining it or throwing it out completely and coming up with another approach. So
Can I say what didn't work at San Jose before they did this lottery system? It was mass negotiation of the users, and that was just a nightmare. So don't do that.
Yeah, that's difficult. That's difficult. We're trying to take that we're trying to minimize that and also minimize the staff selection process and create a little bit of an equity, a spread equity, so to speak. Okay.
And what I can do is
Write that up.
write it up more clearly, and then we can send that out with whatever we next send
Yeah,
out.
and when's our next reservation cycle?
We are, what are we in? We will be looking at summer.
Sorry, and when does,
We will be requesting that stuff, what, in like April, May?
so April, so we'll have a draft out before April, and this doesn't go to commission, it doesn't go to council. So we'll do an ongoing dialogue between staff and the groups on that.
Ideally, I'd like it to go in line with what, like fall of next year. So then we're just starting with a new
All of 25 or,
I mean, that would be great. I don't know if we can.
Well,
do
that's
that.
when effectively the fees would kick in, would be fall.
2025.
okay, that's fine. So we'll start those conversations and put your, if this, then that.
Yeah, we could use some of our field allocation as a practice round.
You could, even though there's no fees tied to it.
Yeah, just to practice the system.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Because you might see what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, get some feedback on actually real life implications and allocations, and then it's not locked in yet. It's just
Right.
sort of.
We can still tweak
It's
it.
in-person negotiation a lot more than it is staff negotiation.
Yeah, and then, that's good, okay.
All I had.
What are our next steps here?
The next steps are for, we're going to, prepare the fees to the commission for March 10th. Based on the discussion today, that is a Monday, so the reports will be live usually by Friday morning-ish. So we'll send that out to the group like we did last time. So you know, when the meeting is. The meeting, just so you know, the Park and Rec Commission used to meet in the cafeteria at City Hall. Now they're in the Jennifer Sparacino room. which is sort of off to the side of the city council chambers.
You enter at city council chambers, right?
You enter at city council chambers and you hang a left instead of
Yeah.
hanging a right.
Yep.
So that's where the Park and Rec Commission meeting will happen. And then based on that discussion, we will go to city council on the 29th with Wade Brummel and the fees of April 29th. Yeah.
I got a question.
Yeah, the non-resident nonprofit discussion, is that they're not in, they're in, where are we with that?
So what I heard was that the groups in the room are not in favor of that. The groups that are online are in favor of that. And so that will be what will be articulated in the report.
In the report.
Yeah.
So we're gonna present to the Parks and Rec Commission for approval
Yep,
with non-resident.
no, we're gonna present, that was a proposal from the group. So it'll be in line with what you've seen, but we will let the Parks and Rec and council know that there's been a request made by AYSO and other groups.
So it's not
relative-
officially in.
It won't be
It
in.
will be brought
will not
up
be
as a
in,
topic.
It will not be in as the recommended fee schedule, but it will be articulated in the report
Okay.
of interest to a group that has been at the meetings and also has some residents. But it will not be recommended in the fee proposal from staff, but they need to know what's been.
They need to know what's been
They
discussed.
know what's been discussed, what's been proposed, and whether or not they agree or disagree and want us, staff, to add it back in or not.
Our groups might want to go and articulate our thoughts on it.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what the public process is for.
Public process is for. So this is what we will propose. This is what we've been sharing, right? And then we'll share that dialogue that we just had.
Perfect.
Okay?
Thank you.
And that way AYSO knows that their views will be reflected in staff's report to council as well.
Yeah, not just me, right? I think Dino as well as, and there's
Yeah,
probably
yeah. Yeah.
other user groups who
Dino.
don't know about it as well.
Yeah,
And I do appreciate the concept of the sliding scale, because that effectively is what that reduction rate at 75% is the same thing effectively. I think it's something we could potentially consider if they wanted to.
Okay.
yeah, we'll see where the discussion goes and if they ask for recommendations from staff and or have any recommendations of their own, so, yeah.
Dino, can you remind us what organization you're representing?
San Jose softball Spartans, excuse me, San Jose Spartan softball.
Thank you.
Right. Thanks, everybody.
Alright,
You bet. If there's anything else for the good of the order, those online or those in the room,
actually,
gave you guys 10 minutes back today. Amazing facilitation and dialogue.
Thank you very much, everyone.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for the ongoing dialogue. We'll see you in March, hopefully at the commission.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
You.
Still